Hello and welcome to another episode of WSHU Doing. I am Aaron Burrell alongside my co-host Paul Guarino.
How's it going, everybody?
We are joined by a very special guest, Natalie Cioffari. Did I see your last name?
Yes, you did.
There we go. I wanted to make sure I've been practicing.
Not Cioffari, I'll give you that.
Natalie, how are you doing today?
I'm good. It's so funny. It's weird to be back on campus because I can't remember the last time I was on campus.
Really?
So when I don't remember ever having automatic doors. So when they became automatic doors, I was like, whoa. I was like, this is such a stupid, silly little change. But like, it's one of those things where I'm like, holy, I have not been back here in so long. Yes. So it's great. Doing great. Feeling good.
No, I get it. We were similarly, we still actually don't actually have access. I just sneak in behind students.
So, still waiting for our IDs.
Me too.
Quickly jet in there. But this is another episode of WSHU Doing. And on this podcast, we like to talk about why Sacred Heart. So we'll start there.
Sure.
Why Sacred Heart for you?
Oh, man. Coming back, 10 years I'm aging myself. I think it was a combination of a couple of things. When I was coming on, it was like the communications department was like up and running. So it was a situation where I was like, I could go to a school that already has a department, journalism, the whole 9 yards, or I can really invest myself and kind of start from the bottom up here and like really make a name for myself. And also like SHU was great. The area was great. Like it kind of just worked out. And so when the time came to applying to colleges and everything, and I got accepted, it was between this and one other school. When I ultimately chose here, it was kind of like a couple of those students like had like won me over with just like everything that was coming. Like I'm pretty sure like Linda's wasn't a thing at that point. Like it was like, oh, we're gonna have this, and I was like, all right. But yeah, so like the faculty, the students, like the whole program, and then now looking at it now, I'm like, holy, like if I was a student like 10 years ago, I think I'd probably still make the same decision for sure.
That's a great quote.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the decision will be even easier now. Like,
I know, yeah, because you actually can see everything where it's like, here's a pile of dirt. It'll be great.
I remember that too because I think it was our freshman year they started building Linda's maybe or something.
Probably.
Something. I just remember because the hill wasn't there yet, or the hill was still there. No, they knocked down something else though, and it was different. No, the hill like changed though. I think.
No, it was definitely a hill.
Yeah.
I just don't remember what was on it, but yeah, either
Whatever.
way. Anyway, did you come in as a communication student?
Yeah, I did. So I came in as a communication student. I actually, when the time was coming and I was really picking my major, I was pre-accepted into the master's program that they had here, but that was like way before it became like what it is right now.
Yeah.
So I came in as a communications major with a concentration in journalism, and I took like the newspaper classes, I took photo, I took a couple of Goldis classes. I pretty much took classes like across the board. So, and then I did my master's here and did the same thing, did a concentration in, I think it was like mass comm or journalism. I think they changed it a couple of times, but did the 2-year program there. And that's when I worked at WSHU. It was like their first GA. So that was another big deal when they were like accepting GA students and a lot of groundbreaking things, like looking back.
a pioneer among pioneers.
There she is, yeah.
Just making us feel like ancient. It's only like 10 years ago.
I know.
It's like back in my day.
It's really bad because that's how I talk to like my mom and my other friends about it. And I'm like, it's really not that bad. I just make it seem that way. And I probably shouldn't because I'm really not that old. So it's just silly.
I get that. It doesn't feel like that long ago, but it was.
I know.
But like at the same time, then like random things will happen and you're like, oh, that was a long time ago.
Yep, exactly.
So.
Well, I live in Fairfield too. So for me, like it sometimes really is like a trip down memory lane. Like especially when the college students are out and like they're out and about in Fairfield or like, now there's the theater. So I pass it like every day when I'm like doing like errands or whatever. So it's really awesome to see like how the university has like really stepped up.
Yeah, no, it is, honestly. But I want to get back into your career. So you started WSHU. Take us through your first few. You were at WSHU for how long again?
2 years.
2 years, okay.
I did the 2-year track for the GA track, yeah.
All right. Talk us through your GA time or your time as a GA at WSHU, and then where did you go after?
Yeah, sure. So I was at WSHU for 2 years. I honestly did that so I could have school fully paid for. The way it worked out. So I was there for 2 years. I was a writer. I was a producer. I kind of did like really anything and everything they asked me, which was really fun. And it was a great experience. I had really good mentors and really good people to work with. And then when it was getting bigger and they brought on more people, I was a producer for The Full Story. I think it still exists, just with a different host. So that was awesome. And that's when Sabrina Guarino joined, and she's been there forever, and she's a legend there. Like, I think she's doing amazing things. So then when I had completed it, you know, it was that situation where I was like, do I stick to radio? Do I go into TV, which is what I wanted to do? Like, I had really loved radio for what it was, and it was tough. So when I was kind of applying to jobs, I was doing it in like the middle of like pre-graduation, kind of figuring out like where I was going to go and what I was going to do. You know, there's always that question, do you move away from home and just say screw it and go to Idaho? Like, you know what I mean? Like, or do you just stay here and like bum on mom's couch and hope to God they pay you well? Like, you know, like, so I had an internship at ABC, I think my junior or senior year when I was an undergrad. And so the mentor I had there, Bob, was awesome. Like, I really had my foot in the door, and like, you know, I definitely had made the connections and such like that. So I got put on as a production assistant like right after graduation for ABC 7, and that was just like life-changing in many different ways, because I had gone in not really knowing what to expect, like never really working in like such an intense news environment like that. Like, I had been at News 12, and it's very different. Like, News 12 is a wonderful place to work, but it's very, very different from like an ABC 7, regardless if they were the New York local versus like Connecticut local. So, and then like 6 months later hit COVID. So like narrowing down that with like working in journalism was really like life-changing in a way, like for me, and then also for like the industry, because like the whole work from home era happened, and like the world shut down. It was like you walked out of New York City, you're like, there's no one here. This is weird but kind of nice. So I started out as a PA, and I ended up working my way to be an assignment editor. And that's like basically, for those who don't know, it's like basically take an assignment editor is like the main messenger for everything, and you're assigning tasks to the reporters, and you're getting phone calls, and you're checking on social media, and you're helping cut video, and then you're also interviewing people, and it's like a nonstop, like constant whirlwind of things. But I loved it for what it was at the time, of course. And then I had moved on to marketing at an agency, and then now I'm at a different agency, and I basically help run the client department there and make sure everything is up and running with campaigns and budgets and, you know, all that stuff with the day-to-day client things and managing people. So
gotcha.
Yeah, it's kind of like the big whirlwind. That's what I'm doing.
No, it's amazing. One shout out to Sabrina. We had Sabrina on the show.
Yes, I saw.
Yeah, I was gonna say too. Like, so what has that transition been like, going from, I guess, media to marketing? Yeah,
so it definitely wasn't in the bingo card for me, for sure. A couple of things happened where, you know, I'm sure as some of you can attest to, like working in an environment like that is definitely very difficult. Okay. You have to have a type of, I think, stamina, and also a type of drive that you kind of have to accept that these are the rules and the terms. Like, you work weekends, you work overnights. Sometimes the pay isn't great, and that's okay. I don't think enough people talk about that in an industry like this, because you go into it with such like charisma and passion, and you should still have that. But I think, you know, when you get older, you start to rethink, like, well, I never see my family. Like, should I, like, maybe tone it back? But the people at ABC were wonderful, and they're definitely not why I left. I think it was just a kind of a change of heart of, I think I need to scale back my lifestyle a little bit. And that's ultimately when I kind of started really looking at like marketing jobs, like something where I could still work with high clientele or like high net worth people and still kind of put out a product that was, you know, I can work on, even though it was PowerPoint instead of TV and things like that. So I actually got connected with Phil Abato, another alumni who was working at an agency, and he was wonderful. He helped me through all the steps, and I he kind of knew who I was from Spectrum. I was like, am I making the wrong decision here? Like, yes. Am I totally just putting my whole life on hold and being a kooky little twisty 180 on my whole life? Like when I was like, so journalism. So I was at that agency with him for, I want to say less than a year, because this other opportunity had came up at a different agency with like a more managerial position, which is what I was more used to at ABC. And then, you know, that's like really where it fell into place. So wow. It was a 180 I definitely was kind of not expecting, but I'm very happy it happened.
Wow.
So you work with like brands or individuals or both?
Yeah, so right now I work for Carat USA. So it's a subsidiary of Dentsu, which is like a very large national marketing agency. So I work for their New York-based office. My client is Microsoft. So within Microsoft, they have, like, I'm sure you know, like Xbox, NFL, Word, Teams, the actual laptops, like education. Like they have so many umbrellas of things that they do. So I came on as like one of the communications planners. So part of my job is managing the client's day-to-day expectations, making sure that things are running smoothly, putting the campaigns out, like doing a lot of creative work and audience work as far as like what you see on TV or what you see on the web or wherever else is kind of like what I help facilitate. I don't make the actual creative, like not like a graphics person if you're, I guess, going for role to role in TV, but more of like a producer and like strategist of the media you see for Microsoft specific campaigns.
Okay, wow. And what other skills like from your media days, that you may have learned here at Sacred Heart and your, you know, Maycom days or whatever that are applicable to your job now?
Totally. So I think like every job is going to give you a really good set of skills, whether it be people skills, communication skills, writing skills. Like Maycom and Sacred Heart kind of did all of that. And then especially working at ABC, like under that intense kind of environment, like all the time, you really get used to like, you know, working well with others and lots of time management and just, you know, skills that like talking to reporters and talking to people up higher than you. Like you kind of lose that nervousness a lot with a lot of things because it's like quick. So going into it, especially with client work, I was like, this is a breeze. Like, you know, like, I'm like, no one's screaming at me. It's not like 5:55 and the package isn't running on time and like SOS, you know what I mean? It's just things get figured out. It's such a different pace and, you know, kind of, and that's ultimately why I think I was hired at Carat so quickly as a manager was because of like those transferable skills of interpersonal skills, communication skills, writing skills, like just things that I picked up from this program and from ABC, regardless if maybe they weren't technically transferable from like the actual like degree, but definitely like the things I learned, like working with like very intense people like Bill Ritter, Lee Goldberg, like the producers, the executive producers, mega producers.
I like the rebrand.
So yeah, I think no matter what, even with my switch when I was a little iffy about it, I'm like, I know I can do this. The hard skills are just obviously different, but the soft skills that you really pick up at jobs are definitely transferable.
Wow. Yeah, that's dope.
I want to take it back to working in a newsroom during the pandemic.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Spooky. When COVID was happening, we were learning things at the same time that everyone else was learning things, except like we're in this like room and like we're getting press releases, we're getting calls, like we're just getting all this information in. So like on top of like being at a network like ABC, it's already so intense and fast paced. You have that like kind of unknown of like coronavirus of like what's going on, how do we approach this, what do we tell people? And also, like, how do you not get sick? Like, you know, because work from home was, like, not a thing for news. And, like, understandably, it's definitely very difficult, you know, with the kind of technology and stuff like that. I think it was, like, at least a year and a half in when they finally, like, had Lee at home, Bill at home, Liz at home. Because that equipment's definitely, like, high tech. And then, you know, setting it up in your home, too. You never know what could go wrong versus being in a studio. So I'd say it was kind of like the wild, wild west, especially for us as, like, PAs. Because, like, we are just the gatherers of like information, clips, interviews, like anything and everything that these producers wanted. So like you kind of just get so wrapped up in this like heap of information all the time, and it was always changing. You know what I mean? The news is always changing, but this like a virus like this, a situation like this. And then on top of that, we had the election. Like, it was intense. It was like literally intense all the time. And then you had one day where you were quiet and you're like, is everything okay? Like, I haven't moved from my seat in like 20 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
But it was definitely a really awesome, eye-opening experience, like, especially for someone just out of college. And really 6 months into like a newsroom, I don't think I could have gotten that really anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, especially New York being like the epicenter of like all of this happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I can only imagine that's an incredible. Like, I feel like your like grandchildren will hear those stories and be like, I can't believe.
Yeah, they'll like hear about coronavirus and like, was the city really shut down? It's like, yeah. Like, I walked outside and I'm like, I got to work in like an hour. Like living in Connecticut, like commuting to the city, like at the time, like it was like no one on the roads, like the city was empty. And of course they had that 7 a.m., 7 p.m. clapping and bells, like for the nurses during the changeover. Like that was beautiful to witness. Like, you know, and then of course, you know, there are always the protests and BLM and all those other things. And as much as those were very hard to watch, like I don't think people really, until you're in it, you don't really get how hard it is until like every other thing that comes out of your mouth is like death, protest, police matter, like 15-year-old shot. Like it's just all these very intense things all the time on top of coronavirus, on top of this job. So witnessing history like that was just really something I think I'll take, you know, to my kids, to my grandkids, etc. And, you know, hopefully they get some meaning out of it. But yeah,
absolutely. I mean, like it is literally the definition of, I mean, we heard the phrase so many times, like unprecedented times, but like we heard it so much because truly it was.
Yeah, it really, and it was like one thing after another.
Seriously. So can we just maybe have a moment to relax?
Lots of history. I need to just relax.
100%.
Yeah, that's why me and Justin are ready to make the Positive News Network, just because like
I know
everything's like even just regular news. But
I definitely understand being on the other side where, you know, like my dad's like, everything's terrible, and I'm like, okay, well it's not. I was like, there's the 10 minutes at the end where like it's all good, but everyone's just the TV up at like 5:40. No, but it's I definitely get it where if you're not in it, like if you're not in the epicenter and kind of understanding how things flow and how stories go and why things get cut and why things make air, like during those times it definitely was dark. I'm not gonna lie, it was, but you know, there definitely was good about it, and I think now it's a lot better, like with all the different podcasts and shows, and even like things not even just at ABC that channels and television stations are doing. I think because so many people were like, we need more humanity, we need more community, and I think they've definitely stepped up with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One thing too I wanted to ask, we kind of talked about it before, but like how do you deal with like work-life balance?
You don't. Yeah, I mean, I would say for anyone, especially like younger than us and really going through school and going through work-life balance, I mean, it's a choice. It's a choice every day. Like sometimes work is going to take precedence. Sometimes life will take precedent. Like I think this work from home aspect that we have now allows people to really truly balance some of the things that you just couldn't do if you were commuting and working a 9 to 5 and, you know, things only being open for so long, and then you're like, oh, I gotta go home, I gotta do laundry, I gotta cook, I gotta do all those other things that you can do really now during your day if it's slow or if you have like breaks at work and things like that. So
saying the quiet part out loud.
Whoops. You know, in news, it's definitely harder. I say you definitely have to set boundaries for yourself, stand up for yourself. Like, you know, you're going to have crappy schedules at times. Like, that's just unfortunately the way that it is. But, you know, as long as you kind of make a pact to yourself that you're still going to take care of yourself and all of that, like, it's really the only thing you can control. I'd say for news, it's definitely tougher, and I think that's one of the reasons why, like, I kind of left, because it really was hard to kind of put that work-life balance into perspective. And even with the job I have now, like, sometimes I like need to pull myself away from my desk. I'm like, okay, like, take a break. Like, nothing is going to explode. Like, if you, like, you know, make yourself some lunch and not wait till, like, 2 o'clock. So it's a choice every day. It's definitely difficult. But I think with this work from home era, it's definitely allowed people to be a lot more personal and emotional about it.
Yeah. Even though I know you guys are making fun of me with the 2 phones, but that's one reason why I got 2 phones, because now I shut off the work one when I go places. So then it's like, it's chill. It's a little more chill, and I'm not thinking about it.
Totally. I get it.
His phone is always ringing, so I'm going to say that.
Hit me up.
My final question for you would be, what advice would you have for students who are looking to make a jump in their career? Because obviously it can be a scary moment. You talked about that as well. What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, so listen, I'd say for anything, if you love it enough, do it. And it's okay in 2-3 years, like heck, even like 6 months if you change your mind. Like, I think that's the beauty of like being your own person and doing what you really think is right in your gut and your heart and really what works out for you in life. Like, you can change your mind. Like, I truly never thought that was the case for me. And then it happened, and you know, now I have holidays off, which is just unheard of in news. Sorry, guys. You know, like things like that like in the long run, the trade-off is, you know, you're trading one thing for another. That's how it's going to be, no matter whether you stick to news, you do sports, you do education, whatever it may be. I'd say, like, you know, you are the only person of that kind of decision, and, you know, be okay with the decision that you make, that knowing it may not be the one that feels well right now, but in the long run, it'll definitely pay off. Listen, still, if you want to pursue journalism, if you want to pursue sports, if that is your passion, if that is what you want to go for, absolutely do it. Like, don't look at my story and be like, oh, well, crap. Like,
I'm going to marketing.
It's tough. She said she doesn't get off on Christmas. I'm not doing that. You know, like, if listen, if that's what you want to do, if you can make it work, like, then absolutely. I still have a very strong passion and love for the industry. I always will. Like, that will never die. But, you know, you have to look out for yourself. You have to do what you think is best. And if that means a career change or a tiny switch in whatever it is, like, it's okay. You know, I don't think that's talked about enough. It definitely wasn't talked about when I was, like, to myself, you know, when I was that age. So, it's okay to change your mind and figure it out.
Yeah, we actually had Shelby Vicar on a couple episodes ago, and she lives in the UK now.
Wow. Yeah.
And guess how many weeks off they get off?
I'm sure it's insane.
17 weeks off.
I believe it.
It's a law.
I know. That's some European countries are like that. And, like, you know, of course, again, another
17.
Maternity leave was another thing that I wanted to think about. You know, I'm like 25. My mom's like, maternity leave? Like, is this something you're not telling me? And I was like, Mom, no, real. But it's things you think about. Like,
it's
you know, when you're 22, like, you might not think about it. When you're like 25, 26, like, looking on the horizon of like dating and life and whatever, or there are things you think about, like, how well does your company do maternity leave or PTO and things like those are all super important.
Unlimited,
things.
But it's not really unlimited.
I do have unlimited PTO. It's very nice. Definitely take it. Your job won't die.
All right, we got a new segment. I don't know what we're gonna call it, but something with shoe fun or fun shoe or something like that. So do you remember? You like that?
No, we're workshopping that name. That's
shoe
what
fun.
I'm saying.
Shoe fun.
Fun shoe.
Shoe fun.
Fun shoe.
Fun shoe.
No.
Fun shoe.
Ask the question.
So, do you remember what dorm room number you were? What dorm and what room number?
Oh man, I definitely was in Merton, and I believe it was 613 because when you came right off the elevator, I was the room like right to the. Look at me, right to the left. That's why I know it's really bad. I do this all the time. Yikes. And I lived in a double, so I got very lucky. Like, we had a really fun dorm, and like all of our friends were there.
You had a good random roommate?
I did. I had a really good random roommate. She ended up being from Rockland County. I still talk to her. Her name's Laura. Like, I really worked out like the best.
That's dope.
I didn't get anybody kooky. So
I wanted a crazy story, but.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Very normal.
Sorry, Laura. So what was your favorite dorm to live in?
So I only lived in Merton freshman year, and then when I studied abroad my sophomore year, so I think the other half when I came back or when I started, I'll be honest, I don't remember the name of them, but they were the ones right across the street, the big, like, where you had like 10 to 12 people.
I know exactly. I know. Yeah, North, but is that its actual name? Because I know we used to call dorms by their actual names.
With a C.
Christian
Witness.
Christian Witness.
Oh my gosh.
This is an official university podcast.
Christian Witness.
I loved Christian. I lived there twice. It was awesome.
I lived there my sophomore year. Super fun. I roomed with Laura. We had this big double room.
Laura.
I know. Shout out to Laura. Honestly. Great roommate. Thank God. And then my junior, senior, and then grad school years, I moved off campus. We did the Bridgeport housing, and then I got really lucky when I was in grad school and lived with this woman in Fairfield who had like dogs in a beach house, and it just it was
Baller
like
alert.
it was so weird. I lucked out really well, like during that time.
Wow. So you went from like one roommate to 12 roommates to living overseas, and then living with some rich lady on the beach.
Correct. We had a Bridgeport house in between. There was me and my girlfriend Allie, and it was a huge house, and there was another girl we had roomed with who ended up moving out halfway through. We never really knew why, and she moved out, and then it was literally me and Allie in this ginormous house. Nicole remembers that house. It was a good house. It was a nice, like, 3-story house. It was huge for 2 people. And then that's when she moved home. I think she completed graduate school. She's from Connecticut, so I think she just commuted. And I found this woman. I forget what website it was, but she was legit and she was great. And
not a serialkiller.com.
No, she was like a hippie in her 50s. She liked to drink a lot of wine and like twirl around in her pajamas. And like I was like, all right, this is the vibe. I want to be like you when I grow up. How do I achieve this? This is great.
Wow, we're like 10 episodes or more deep at this point, and we should have asked more dorm questions.
We should have.
Yeah, I mean, it's so fun to reminisce on that stuff.
Season 2 coming to you.
Definitely.
Natalie, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Of course.
This has been another episode of What You Doing. We'll see y'all next time.